when were the times that you were the most scared when you're doing this? I know you had mentioned the chapel. Any other times?
Yeah, actually, the chapel one was quite scary simply because so many of the pieces of equipment that we had, most of them have various sensors or alarms on them, tended to all go off at one time. At the same time, we also saw a shadow figure and it caught it on film. So we had audio evidence and video evidence as well during that event in Hart Chapel, which certainly made us a bit scared. The other event for me would have been an investigation of Beck Hall, which now is no longer a residence hall. It was for about 100 years until 2008, and then was taken offline and preparing some renovations to turn it into a one-stop shop for our students. But we managed to have a professional investigation in that building just after the last students had left. And there's the famous oak closet, cedar, it's a combination of cedar and oak, that is a large storage room that has had activity in the past. And yeah, I can vividly remember spending one night in the cedar closet with infrared camera as well as audio equipment and having a conversation apparently with something, spirit, some activity that was in there, and flashlight turning on and off to direct questions. And whoever was on the other side of that conversation was quite adamant that I leave their cedar closet. And so I abided. I left.
Yeah, people are pretty proud of their cedar closets.
Yeah. Well, this particular spirit, one strategy sometimes employs, you try to agitate them because maybe they'll be a little bit more vocal or a little bit more adamant in their response. And even though the building itself definitely is not going to be torn down, it's being renovated, I made the comment to whoever was there that this old building needed to be taken down, and we're going to start tearing it down the next day. And I had an immediate response to that question, which made it perfectly clear I was supposed to leave the building.
Oh, what did the spirit feel about making it a green building?
Well, we didn't go so far as to talk about that, but most certainly she did not want her building taken down. We believe it is a female spirit in there. And not only did she not want the building taken down, but she did not want any men in there at all. And so I guess I qualified on both accounts since I was a male tenant telling her we were going to tear the building down. And the flashlight definitely started flashing quite vigorously. And then at that point I asked the question, do you want me to leave? And it came on incredibly bright. It basically said, yeah, you need to go. So I was out the building rather quickly.
And that was actually an all-female dorm since it was built.
Exactly. It was an all-female dorm, and we've had several stories from the past of young men who were visitors in the building, whether they were campus security, checking the doors at night, who frequently talk about paranormal activity, which they felt the same sensation, that this was the idea that guys are not supposed to be in this particular residence, and that there was perhaps the spirit of an old, to use the old-fashioned phrase, dorm mom, but perhaps there was the spirit of one of the women who sort of watched over the young women in that residence hall who did not want any young men and still don't want any young men in there at all.
That was also the dining hall. Maybe it was just some bad food left over.
Could have been. You never know. Remember that some of the alums from the 1950s remember the old dining hall strike.
That's right. That's right. There's always something. So tell me, Todd, what in your education, including your doctorate, prepared you for this type of work? Did you ever think that you'd be looking for ghosts as a history professor?
I cannot honestly say that I was thinking of this at the time I was training and earning my PhD down at William & Mary, but there were a couple of ties to it. When I was earning my doctorate down in Williamsburg, Virginia, which is, as you mentioned, where I'm calling you from right now, I went on many of the famous candlelight ghost tours that anybody who's ever visited Colonial Williamsburg, it's a very mainstay activity to go on one of the famous ghost tours. So I've been part of that before. And also down at William & Mary, I was heavily involved in an oral history project with alumni, which is also what sort of triggered this at Clarion in terms of gathering stories from various alum about what happened at Clarion in this building or in that building. So as I look back on it, I have to admit there were a few seeds that were planted many years ago down here in Williamsburg.
Did you ever think about, in addition just to expanding it to the general Clarion community, to places like Venango campus in Oil City or Oil City with all the ghosts of the original exploration of oil? Oil was developed, found in Pit Hole.
Yes, absolutely. And that's actually a very famous site for paranormal investigations at the old Pit Hole site. As a matter of fact, I believe it was 2 summers ago that I gave a presentation during the Oil Heritage Days, which the Venango campus helps to host at their campus, and spoke of many ghosts from the area. Now, we haven't had a chance yet to investigate on the Venango campus, although I'm starting to hear more stories from my colleagues in the various buildings there that we need to spend some time in that region as well. But we absolutely wish to expand it to that area so that we can really share the enjoyment with everyone. Because bottom line for us is whether people are believers or non-believers, it's fun. It's that time of year when everybody wants to get a little bit scared, and this is a great way locally to get that little bit of adrenaline flowing.
Do you think people could invest some of their selves in a particular site or something, even, before they die? That, for instance, Venango campus, that was constructed by the community up there in 1960. I mean, they built it and then turned it over to the state. Maybe some of that investment. Even.
Well, I would think so. Absolutely, I would think so. People, when you devote that much time of your life to one particular area, it doesn't have to be a tragic ending to your life that would lead to a haunting. It could be a longing for that site as well. I like to tell my students that you never know. Many, many years from now, when my days as a teacher or as someone on this planet are long gone, I love Clarion University enough that I wouldn't be surprised if my spirit might hang around for a few more years there and add another story to the Founders Hall ghost.
Well, you do have tenure.
That's exactly right. So, I might as well stay forever.
Yes. I was wondering, would you see anything coming in the future like Owens glass plant? I mean, obviously I don't think anyone has ever died out there, but people have given their lives and their souls to the place. You just think some of that may be attached.
I would think so. I truly disagree with a lot of what we see on television, that it has to be a tragic event that would lead to any type of paranormal activity, and that if depending again on people's beliefs, you certainly could have people simply attached because of lifetime experiences. And as a result, I would like to think that with the number of paranormal research groups that now contact me for ideas about investigations in the area, that could certainly encourage them, with permission, obviously, to investigate buildings such as the one you mentioned, but still keep in mind that there are places around Clarion where tragedies have occurred many, many years ago as well, and we would like to still investigate those. Perhaps that lends a little bit more to the scary factor that a lot of people like to think of the tragedies themselves. But absolutely, there's no reason that an old house with no history, why that couldn't be investigated as well. Or, as you said, a factory where people truly gave their lives and their professions for so many years. No reason those couldn't be on the list.
Right. I noticed that while you're saying some things, at least in my headphones here in the studio, there's electronic reaction when you say certain things on the phone, or again, it just may be the cell phone. Hey, I noticed some other schools sometimes are getting into the other members of the spirit world. One school I know has a zombie week.
Yes.
And with all the Twilight stuff going on, some people are really into the vampire scene. It's amazing that they're all young and really good looking now. But do you ever think of broadening your scope from just ghosts to other creatures of the netherworld?
It's something that I'll always leave up to the History Club, because for me, although I sort of bring a lot of this together for them, it's always been their baby. This is how they work it. And if you ask me for my personal opinion, I think we'll leave it with the spooks and the paranormal. Last time I checked around Clarion, haven't seen too many bloodsuckers around there, so I don't think there's too many vampires running around, or werewolves, or mummies in the night, or anything like that. But hey, you never know. If the History Club wants to expand this more of an entertainment function to some of the other activities, I'll be there to support them. But for me, it's always been about the paranormal activity. I think that's at the center of it.
Right. Have you mentioned that some of your own graduates have gone on to form or work with paranormal groups? That must seem pretty rewarding for you.
It is. It's one of those cases where we thought when we started this 7+ years ago that this was all about just having a little bit of fun in late October, and would anybody really be interested in this? But the combination of the response that we've had, and every year we've had more and more people, as you mentioned, growing to 3 nights, and who knows in the future possibly up to a full week of events, that to see my students take these ideas and say, for the fun factor of it, I would like to do this with my students in the future, or for the educational factor of interviewing people and learning their stories and doing that type of historical background research, it is rewarding. It's certainly fun as well. But to those naysayers out there, I would say it's something that if you can get students interested in reading and researching more and sharing their ideas with their students in the future just to learn those skills, the investigative skills, there's nothing wrong with that, and it certainly is rewarding.
That's great.
But here just recently, in the past month, the particular story about the Hart Chapel ghost has appeared in print in a new book called Weird Hauntings. And they'd read about the story online through all our various news services, and the editors of the book called me up and said we really would like to include the story of the Hart Chapel ghost in our published collection. And so that just came out in print this past month.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
Yeah, spread the word of Clarion in other ways.
Well, we're talking about Clarion Connection, so we like to stay connected with all avenues of the community.
I do certainly foresee a time, absolutely. If not this, this year probably a little bit too soon, but by next year, reaching out to the community and turning this into a week-long event. And the History Club is always at work. These are great students in terms of getting me to think outside the box about what else during the year could we be doing, even if it's not related to paranormal activity, but what are those activities that would get students and community members interested in coming for a presentation and seeing how history relates to their everyday life. So I wouldn't be at all surprised if we both take the ghost event and expand that, but also think about other popular events that we could bring to all the people of Clarion, as you say, keep everybody connected to the university if we can.
Now, the students generally market the whole event, don't they?
Yes, they sure do. They usually have, and in fact, I believe they'll be produced probably today or tomorrow. We usually have Ghost Event T-shirts, and we always order extra T-shirts beyond the ones the students wear to promote, so that we can sell a few T-shirts to audience members if they wish to have that. It's become a very collectible item because we use the same standard style every year, but we always have a famous ghost quote on the back, and we like to change that up every year, whether it's a historical figure or a literary figure, and have a wonderful quote that people can wear. So we have the ghost T-shirts. We always have some posters, which those should be produced and out in the local community by the end of this week to let people know the dates and times of the event. So the students are wonderful about all this. They sort of let me have my way with the stories and the presentation, and I think they're very tolerant of me in that I like to be up on stage to tell the stories. But they do all the work in terms of promotion. They do all the work in terms of getting 400 people into that auditorium every night and seated as quickly as possible. And without them, this event simply doesn't go.
Have they developed a web page connection with this?
Haven't developed a web page yet, although I understand that a couple of the students have developed some Facebook pages. So I think there is some Clarion Paranormal out there on Facebook right now, but it's something, electronic media, that we want to kind of get the word out and get the word out much more quickly to a broader number of people. So I wouldn't be surprised to see that develop in the future as well.
You know, I'd read something where there are always questions about what happens when someone's deceased and they've signed up for this social media like Facebook. Or would it be possible to friend a ghost other than Casper? But
yeah, that's an interesting concept. I could actually try that and see. Some people would say that I'm the famous ghost of Facebook because I've had a Facebook account for years and I never use it. So every week I'm getting new friends that I don't reply to. So maybe I'm the ghost of Facebook.
Well, they'll be looking for evidence of your existence.
That could be. Well, after you and Ron, you made that photo of me levitating up above Hart Chapel. I'm sure there's people with a few questions.
That was pretty amazing because I didn't even use Facebook. Facebook. I didn't even use Photoshop for that. I didn't know how you did that.
That was amazing. I remember that rainy day standing outside, and the next thing I know, I see a picture of me levitating.
Yeah. Well, that's how it works in the ghost world. Hey, Todd.
Exactly.
I want to thank you for joining us. It's been very enjoyable. And
I want to thank all of you as well for having me on here. And just I'll quickly mention, of course, that our event this year, if it's okay for me to mention the dates,
sure,
is on October 21st, 22nd, and 23rd. That's Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. It'll be at 8 o'clock each night in Hart Chapel Auditorium. As always in the past, this is free and open to the public, although, as I've said and you've mentioned it, typically sells out even though it's free. And as a result, we encourage people to be there early when the doors open so that they can grab a seat. This year we're actually trying something a little bit different. We're actually encouraging students, if possible. We know Thursday night's a popular night for our students. We're definitely setting up Saturday night as community night. Doesn't mean that community members can't come on Thursday or Friday, but we're specifically setting up Saturday as community night with a little bit more different activity for community members with Nation.